With a fresh install, the app will bring you to a landing screen with this warning. Since Pagan isn't packaged with the sound font, you'll need to get your own. I've provided a link to what I think is a pretty decent sound font here, so tap that and download it. Then, open up Settings. What we want to do here is tell Pagan to use our newly downloaded sound font. So tap No Sound Font here. First we need to tell Pagan where to look for and store sound fonts. So click OK, and create a new sound font folder. Call it something useful like sound fonts, and tap Use this folder, and allow Pagan access. Now we want to copy the sound font that we just downloaded to our newly created directory. So we'll select it from our Downloads folder. Now we can get started. Tap Back, and New Project. So, when starting a new project, we initially get 4 beats. We also are given a piano line and a drum line. And lastly, our new project starts at 120 beats per minute. I'm thinking 120 beats per minute is a bit fast for the vibe we're going for, so let's change. We can do that by tapping on the metronome icon here, then tapping on 120 BPM. Now let's bring that down to 100. Now let's start with a beat. Tap the first beat on the drum line. Tap the Set button here. Then repeat that on beat 2. Now we'll set our drum to a proper kick drum. Tap the drum lines label. Then tap the button that says High Q. And select number 8, Standard Kick. Now we're going to need more than just one drum line. So we'll create 2 new lines by tapping the New Line button twice. Tap the High Q button again. Select number 15, Hi-Hat closed. Then select the remaining line, tap High Q again, and choose number 11, Standard Snare. Now we've got a kit set up, so let's start with a simple rock, which means we alternate between the kick and the snare drum on every beat, and hit the hi-hat in between each beat. We already have a kick set up, so let's set the snare on beats 1 and 3. Now we want to set the hi-hat in between beats, so we'll split the beats in 2. To do that, select the first beat in the line, and tap the split button. Now select the newly created subdivision and set it. At this point we could manually repeat that process, but I'll show you a quicker way to do that. Tap and hold either of the subdivisions in the first beat, then tap the beginning of the line, and that'll duplicate the beat to the end of the song. Now that we have a simple beat, let's repeat it a few times. First select the first beat of the kick drum by tapping and holding it, then do the same on the last beat of the hi-hat line. You may have noticed we're now selecting a rectangular range. To repeat it, we tap and hold the beginning of the line of the topmost line of the selection, which in our case is the kick drum. Let's repeat it twice. So type a 2 and tap OK. And our song has just gotten a little longer. Now let's give the song some melody. Tap the first beat of the piano line. Time for a little explanation. This may not look like musical notes to you, but I promise it's simpler than it looks. I think it can best be explained by asking the question, how many notes are in an octave? That's not a trick, there's 12. Now look at the bottom line, 12 notes. So the bottom line is the note offset and the top line is the octave. Now that you know that, we can start placing notes. We'll set the octave to 3 and leave the offset at 0. Now split the beat and tap the new empty space. Tap the 7 on the offset line and the octave will default to the previous note used. For the remaining notes, I want each to be 1/2 of a beat. So I'll tap the next beat, split it, then tap and hold. Finally tap the beginning of the line to fill in the rest. Now we can focus on the note input. We'll go with something very uncomplicated here. So 4, 0, 9, 4, 9, 4, 4, 11, 7, 4, 9, 4, 9, 4. So about that beat. We don't want to get too fancy or nothing, but it is a bit too simple at the moment. So let's fix that. Tap beat 2 on the snare line. Tap the insert button twice so we split the beat into 3. Set the second space and do the same for beat 6 by tapping and holding the current beat. Then tap the 6th beat on the snare line. And we've copied the change. Let's change that piano to something softer. Personally, I'm partial to a marimba. Tap the beginning of the line, then tap it again to select the channel. From here, tap the Yamaha Grand Piano button, scroll down just a little and select Marimba. Now we need some bass, so we'll need a new channel. Tap the plus button to create a new channel. Now let's change that piano to something a little bit more appropriate. I'm going to go with the bassoon, but you do you. Again, let's split each beat into two. So tap, split, tap and hold, tap. We'll keep the bass line simple, with a 2-7 on the first half of the first beat and a 2-9 on the second half of the second. The notes are a bit too short, so let's hold them. Tap the first, then tap the X1 button here. Set that to 3 and OK. Alright, see how the note's now being held 3 times its normal duration? And we'll do the same for the other note, except hold for 5 instead of 3. And for the second half, we'll keep the rhythm but step up to 11 and then back down to 9. So that's a start, but the bass sounds a little empty. So let's add a bit of harmony. Create a new bass line by tapping the start of the bass line and then tapping the new line button. We'll split up the new line in the same way we did for the other one. Now let's create some dyad. The 0, 4, 7, 4. Set the durations. Let's finish this off with a single chord. We can add 4 beats by first tapping on the beat number, then tapping and holding the add column button here. Set 4 and OK. Now we have 4 more beats. We'll set a 3-0 on the top line and add a dyad in the bass line. For a final flourish, we'll add a crash cymbal. Tap the beginning of any kit line and then the add line button. We'll change the default to a crash cymbal, down at position 22. Now set all the new notes' durations to 4 beats. Alright, let's give that a listen. Scroll back to the beginning and select either the first beat or anything within. Then tap the play button. There, we made a thing. Let's give it a name and save it. First, tap the hamburger menu. Then tap Change Project Name. Now give it some name. Then tap the Save button. Just like with sound fonts, we need to create a directory where Pagan can save projects. I'm going to create a folder called Pagan Projects, then allow access. And that's that! That should get you started, but if you're curious to see what else you can do, I've linked to the manual in the description.